All right.
All right. Welcome to episode number 42 of the Sundowners Golf Club podcast. I am Giovanni. I am your host after a long absence from speaking in public airwaves. So you're welcome, everybody. But unfortunately for you all, I'm back. I am here with Matt Caldwell, my co-host. Matt, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm just glad you're back as well. I tried to do a solo pod. I didn't have my captain, and the reviews were not great. So,
I'm a terrible QA guy. I haven't even listened to it yet. But I do want to pull up one of our reviews. So I guess while I'm digging it up, Matt, why don't you tell us your thoughts as you were going through our first ever solo pod?
So here's what happened. This is the God's honest truth. This is what happened. You know, when you're getting ready to do it, you get into you're thinking how the pod goes with your pod partner, the person you're used to throwing stuff off. So you have like in your head, you're like, I'll just talk about those same things. Well, as I was getting ready to hit record, I realized, well, I'm not going to be able to, like, the banter back and forth, this or that, or the question, call and response thing that's just not going to exist. And so in the 11th hour, I called an audible and I tried to pull up as much Sahith Thagala info as possible, which I thought it was fun info, but in a hasty collection of data, I didn't present it that well, I don't think. And the other piece was I just tried making it as long as possible, because you and I, when we record, it's about an hour, right? Give or take, depending on what's going on. Sometimes we stretch it to 45 minutes, and sometimes we have to cut it short at an hour 20. I do intend on doing another one, and I can assure everybody involved, Matt Hansen, it will be better. And the reason is I think that's where I know I fell short. I know now how I would structure a me podcast. And I think what would be best for everybody is if I just leaned into the history of whatever it is and just kind of presented that, and it was a little narrative. I think had I prepared a little bit better, knowing that's what I was going to do, it would have been much different. But calling an audible literally as you're about to hit record, not great.
Well, I mean, we're here. I'm glad that I think you and I are very similar. We can handle the heat. We're just having some fun with it. It is a fun reminder that me and you decided to do this simply because we like to talk about golf, and it's a fun little side project. And I think we've gotten better at it, but at the end of the day, it's we just like to schmuck it up with each other and chat about golf. So I don't know that neither of us are at this point in our life very gifted at storytelling. Maybe we'll get better at it, and I think one solo pod at a time will get us a little bit closer. But yeah, it's a fun reminder that maybe we're not as good at this as we think.
Yeah. One of the reviews I got was, I got one very harsh review. I won't name names. I'm sure you're going to drop it here in a second. And the other one was, they didn't disagree with the first analysis. But they, their response was kind of what you just said, was like, how many times have you ever sat and talked out loud to yourself for 40 minutes? Like, that's probably the first time you've ever done that. And so, yeah, it's not what you think it is until you do it. And then you're like, my goodness.
Yeah, it's I mean, I guess I'll admit there's times when I'm like preparing for an interview, and if I have a commute, I'll catch myself just like chatting to myself, but it's like very much like scripted. I don't know. It's so I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back to our reviews. I can't find it, but Matt Hansen Matt was aware that we were doing a solo pod, and he said he sent me a message about it, and at this point, I hadn't listened to it, and he was like, "Yeah, it's a little rough. Don't tell Matt." And then the next message I get is his screenshot of him saying, "Never mind, I already told him." And Matt Matt's biggest piece of criticism was, "Shout out to me though for listening to all of it."
Oh, dude, he said that straight to my face. There's nothing like getting a compliment, but the compliment is for the guy telling you that was brutal. Yeah, I listened to all of it. You should buy me a sixer for doing it, because Jesus.
Now, I mean, I gotta say, shout out to you for doing it, and maybe to, I can't remember why we didn't record 2 weeks ago. The short answer is just real life got in the way. So we weren't able to make it happen a couple weeks ago, and then I was in Arizona for work all last week, so I was MIA, which left you hanging, and I think we both felt this kind of obligation to get something done. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for keeping the ship going in the right direction. I guess before we jump into the players, I do want to. I don't know if we've really debriefed a ton on my golf when we were in Arizona, but I was able to play 4 rounds of golf in 4 days when we got there. First one, shout out to Todd Dobson, Scott Hebert. They comped our round at the grass clippings course down in Tempe. That's the lighted par 3 course. So me and a handful of the Desert Dogs hockey guys went out there, played 18 holes. We started at 5:30, I believe, on Thursday night, which had us playing in the daylight. And then by the time we got to the 10th hole, we were playing under the lights, which was a ton of fun. That place is really, really cool. Once we finish up, there's a little outdoor bar. There's a restaurant out there. So we had just some munchies and a beer before we decided to leave. That place was a blast, man. It's hard. It's hard to picture that place not being successful. It's just a cool environment. The driving range was packed. The bar was packed when we were done. I did have one nitpicky thing here, and Todd, this is for you. I go in there and there's not a single visor in sight. Okay. We need to diversify a little bit. Maybe you guys could use a little culturing here, but you got to have some visors in that pro shop. What would Keith Mitchell say if he walked in there? My second gripe, and maybe this is a testament to the team, but no LA Roses gear there. I talked to the guy working the counter, and he said, man, that's like the only thing that didn't get shipped in our recent shipment. So I guess I will just be on standby because I am an LA Roses fan. But anyhow, that place was awesome. I look forward to going back.
Well, speaking of Todd Dobson, he put out some news today on Twitter. I don't know if you saw this.
Which news was that? They got all sorts of headliners going on right now.
They let everybody know. We kind of got a little insider. We not live, but we got tipped that there was a new team coming to the Grass League, and they announced it today. That Las Vegas is going to now have a franchise in the Grass League, and names associated with it right now are Colt Knost. We have Scott Harrington, Jennifer Song, Willie Mack III, Gigi Stoll, and more, they say. So more names to come. But Willie Mack, professional golfer, Jennifer Song, professional golfer, Scott Harrington, Colt Knost. I mean, that's a problematic roster if you're not on that team.
Man, they are moving and shaking at the Grass League. It's stinking awesome. I'm so thrilled that they came on the podcast with us early. We kind of got to get the grassroots story about how it started, and it's fun to watch it flourish, man, because it's taken off. So it's oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say this league is gonna be fun. I think we kind of talked about it when Todd was on, but it's exciting to see this thing continue to grow because I just keep going back to that point I made was, stroke play, traditional, golf is like, we have that, we have that on lock, right? Whether it be the PGA Tour, whether it be the DP World Tour, Live, like however you look at it, like that's on lock. Mm-hmm. And what golf has so many other ways that people play it day in and day out. And to see the Grass League leaning into it, and we're starting to see like you know, I don't want to delegitimize what they were doing before, but you know, professional golf names, names people who casually watch golf are going to know now, right? I mean, Colton Oast, as much as I you know, rib him for his anti-statistic perspective, you know, that's a guy people know, and he's associated with this league. That's awesome, and we need it. I think it's so good. I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's just such an easy league to follow, right? So we talk about this a lot with some of the stuff PGA Tour's doing, some of the TGL stuff, some of Live. It's kind of all about like the fan. How is it being consumed? How easy is it to watch? It's not terribly complicated, and they got enough recognizable names and characters that it's just kind of magnetic.
Yeah.
So I'm going to move on to my Friday. We played a round at Whirlwind Golf Club. We played Devil's Claw, which is one of the two courses. I mean, it's just typical Arizona golf there. It's beautiful. It's unreal. You know, hard, firm landscape. We just played a normal round as a bit of a practice for our tournament the next day.
What tee boxes did you play from, buddy?
We played the 1-ups, whatever. I can't remember the colors that they were.
Gold?
We played yeah, gold sounds right. Yep. I think I shot a 96. I got my scorecard somewhere floating, so I got to get that posted.
Yikes.
Tough day. You know, it's I don't know if you've ever played golf where your hands feel numb. It's hard. Okay. I don't know. When I hit the ball, I couldn't even guess if it was a fade, a hook, a slice, a top. I don't know. I just swing it and see where it goes. So, you know, it's early season. All right. So we're coming around.
Do you want to know what the rating is from the golds?
I'm gonna guess 71.
Yeah. Well, it's a 70.
Okay, so it's
solid 70. Par 72. Okay. The rating is 70.
But what's the slope? That's more important, right?
123.
So it's an easy course. Okay, I get it. All right, moving on. So fun fact about Whirlwind is they are hosting an LPGA event at that course, at that facility at the other course, the Cattail course. It looks like they're doing that March 26th to 29th. So they had the other course was cart path only for sounds like for the last few weeks in preparation for that. So
very cool.
Yeah, that like automatically makes me more interested in that tournament. So I will probably be tuning into that. I have played that course before. In fact, another fun story. I played with Joel. He's one of the Desert Dogs. He's an original Sundowner. Me, him, and our buddy John Teets, Garrett Stevenson, we played Devil's Claw first, the four of us, and then we decided to play a second round. We played Cattail, and then three of us out of the four decided, why not? Let's just go play again. So we played 54 holes out there in the Arizona heat. Fun day. All right, moving on to Saturday. I'll make it a little bit quicker here. We don't have to dive too deep, but Saturday we played a very, very, very much corporate charity sponsor tournament at Verado, the Founders Club, which was a stunning clubhouse. Very, very beautiful course. Quite frankly, not too different from Whirlwind. It just very much prototypical Arizona golf. You know, you miss the fairway and you're in the cactuses looking for your ball. That was a fun course, fun day. We were on the golf course for 6.5 hours. My team came in with a 57. We walk over to the clubhouse and so I was on our company team. We had a second company team ahead of us. So they're buddies of ours. They also shot a 57. So we go up to the clubhouse and everybody's gone. There's nobody there. And we're like, oh, what the heck? It took 6.5 hours. Are there people still on the course? They gave all the prizes out. They did all the raffles. They gave out first and second place prizes and everybody was gone. And it turns out that 57 was a tie for second. So between me and the group ahead of us. So we both got second place and they gave away our prizes. So there were a few angry customers that day, but I think at that point we were at least I was kind of fed up with being at the course, so I just was laughing about it and moving on. But
my gosh, how does that even happen?
An actual 6.5 hours, and we're not it was just front to back the whole time, right? There was there was no time saving that we could have shaved off that round.
I don't know if I've ever done a 6.5 hour round. I think I think the last time I was on pace for a 6.5 hour round, I went to the clubhouse and I was like, "Hey man, I'm on pace for a 6.5 hour round. I'm going home, and you're going to give me a rain check because this is out of control."
I'm sure you had your pinky. I'm sure you had your pinky in the air the whole time you had that
Buddy,
conversation too,
dude. And I got that rain check because they agreed.
You know, I think six. So I've probably said I've had 6.5 hour rounds, like exaggerating, but this time it was like truly to the number 6.5 hours on the golf course. Um, however, it was fine. You know,
What were the temps out there? It had to have been brutal. What was it?
the temperature, no, honestly, the temperature was fine. I think we were like mid 70s and it was pretty breezy. So like in terms of temperature, it wasn't too bad. It just it was just a slow mover. But
Just a few had a few transfusions, some water, or what? What were
you know,
the
I
beverages?
I kept it light. We had there were a lot of shots bought for us. I'm not much of a shots guy, so I tried to sneakily just collect those and then regift them,
Yeah,
which worked pretty well. I just had 3 IPAs on the course. I was keeping it light. It was a
yeah,
little bit of a semi kind of work thing, right? You're kind of schmoozing with people, and I'm sitting in a cart with our one of our board members, and so I'm trying to keep it high and tight, kind of pick his ear and do the whole work stuff. So kept it high and tight for that round. 57, and for the record, that does include it's a charity event, right? So if you donate money, then you can, if you outdrive, one of them was if you donate $400 and you outdrive the college golfer on the tee, who was a woman teeing from the same tees as us. You had to outdrive her, but keep it in the fairway. And then if you do, then you get to put your ball 15 yards from the hole and putt for a one. So we did that. We outdrove her. We paced off 15 yards, and our fourth putter made the putt. So we got a hole in one. So it was one of those kind of scrambles, right? So 57 is a very much an artificial number. We probably had,
right.
I don't know, is it? I mean, for four person scramble, maybe. Generally speaking, it wasn't great, but we had quite a few birdies, so I think we might have shot an authentic, maybe 61. I guess I don't know. That was a fun day though. Verado was cool. I think I liked Verado a little bit better than Whirlwind,
Yep.
but my favorite course to play was the next day. I played with Joel and Teets. That was Auction Southern Dunes. It's about 40 minutes south of downtown Phoenix. I think it's in Maricopa, I believe is where that's at. That was everything you would expect from an Arizona golf course, but it was also tree lined. That was by far my favorite course there. They had so many fun little like optical illusions, I guess, off the tee. Like you're staring down this what you think is a fairway somewhere over there, but there's bunkering everywhere. There's kind of sloping to where
Okay.
it looks like there's nowhere to hit it. And then once you finally drive up there and you're like, holy smokes, there's a ton of fairway up here. What was I stressing about? There were a lot of cool aspects like that. We did play with a guy named Jonathan who played college golf. I can't remember where. He played D3 college golf. He says he plays to about a scratch. That guy was so fun to watch play golf. He had this, he just hits the ball different, right? I've played with scratch golfers that are not as good as him, despite being scratch. He just hits this high piercing shot. He's got such good control over his swing. That was worth the price of admission, just showing up there and playing with him.
You lucky duck. I have to wait for my very first corporate golf event, but it is officially happening. So I'm excited. I get to go out to Virginia in May and play Belmont Country Club at Ashburn, Virginia. And I was sharing with you some of the history of this golf course, or the property rather than the
Yep.
golf course is sitting on. And man, I'm pretty excited to go nerd out, see some of these historical buildings. And except I just looked at the registration times. It's 6:30 a.m.
Oh,
So bright and early start for me.
don't stay up too late.
Yeah, geez.
Speaking of staying out too late, before we played golf on Sunday, of course, that the night before is when daylight savings time occurs.
Oh yeah.
But I'm in Arizona. They don't recognize daylight savings time. So I didn't think I had to do anything. So the plan is, because I didn't have a rental car, the plan was for me to take an Uber to Joel's house, which is 15, 20 minutes away from downtown Phoenix. And then I was going to ride with him to the golf course. So I wake up at whatever time, maybe 6 o'clock. The plan was to get there at 7. So I wake up at 6, I shower, I get ready, and I am just tired. I did have a text from Joel at 3:40 a.m. confirming that we're meeting at his place. So I take an Uber down there to his apartment complex, which is like a gated, I think a lot of apartments are like that, gated community area. So I'm kind of waiting out front, and it's creeping past 7. I'm calling Joel off the hook. I'm like, dude, why is he not answering? Was he up till 3:40? So then I get an Uber to head straight down to the course thinking, all right, we're doing this without Joel. So I call up Teets and I say, hey, I couldn't get a hold of Joel, but I'll be there at like 7:40. He's like, you mean 6:40? I'm like, is it not 7:12 right now? He's like, no, it's 6:12. What are you doing? So my phone, for whatever reason, had moved an hour ahead despite being in Arizona.
Oh man.
So then Joel, of course, calls me around 7, like, hey, what's going on? You good? So I ended up at the course an hour and 45 minutes early. They had a nice little cozy fireplace there. It was a cold morning in Arizona. So I had some breakfast by the fireplace, had about 3.5 cups of coffee, and I was ready to go.
I wonder why that
Joel did
happened.
make it.
Your phone, he didn't make it anyway?
No, he did make it. No, I don't actually know why it happened, because, when I travel through time zones, you go on airplane mode and you land.
It changes.
And your phone changes. And my watch, which is connected to my phone, my Garmin watch, also said, it changed an hour ahead. So I really don't know why that happened. And when I asked a bunch of others that were at the conference with me, they all didn't have any issues with it. So,
dude, I have to admit, and I don't know why this is. Every time I get on a plane that's traveling across time zones, for whatever reason, like I think I'm like a decently intelligent guy, like, average, above average.
I know you think that.
I do. I, for whatever reason, cannot get a grasp when I look at like the ticket that says you're going to land at 6:30. I'm like, is that 6:30 the time I'm in now, or 6:30 the time that I will be in then at the time? Yeah. So I land at 6:30 local. Is it a local time, or is that a now for me time in the future if I'm going forward? So if it says 6:30, but I'm going to the East Coast, is it actually 9:30? So for whatever reason, I still don't know. And I've been flying on airplanes for a long time.
I can't poke too much fun at you, because that was a thing I feel like I always was pausing on. Like, well, wait a second. If I'm flying here, oh, never mind. It's local time. So it does say local time, which even that alone is sometimes confusing, because you're like, are they doing me a favor by doing the time adjustment for me, or are they saying my local time? I have traveled enough to where I don't bat an eye about it anymore, but I could relate with that.
You know what other thing, as I've started to travel more, that I've begun to actually pay attention to? I used to not care about layovers, right? First and foremost, try to get not a layover. Just don't do a layover. But if you do have to do a layover, make it towards the direction that you're trying to go. I used to not care. I lived in Colorado, so most of my stuff, you had to go east or west generally anyway. But now that we're here in Washington, I pay close attention to it, because it's like, if I'm going to Florida or Iowa or wherever, the layovers, they send you to Los Angeles, or they send you to, San Francisco or something. It's like, so I just have a long layover in the sky for 2 hours, and then another hour and a half layover to just start my trip east, later. So I also pay attention to that.
Yeah, I can see that. I used to want like a short layover, because in my head I was just like, layover equals bad layover. But I've had too many sprints around the airport for a slightly delayed flight to where I tend to shy away from a layover that's less than an hour, depending on where I'm going and what I'm doing. But most of the time, I'm totally okay with a probably 2.5 hours is like the sweet spot. I don't want anything much longer than that, but enough time to kick your feet up at the Delta Sky Lounge and open your laptop and kind of zone out.
I do that too. And maybe I'm a little biased, but I like stopping in at DIA. I don't know if you've been through DIA recently, but the restaurants they have now in the A and B terminals are fantastic. So if you give yourself that 2-hour window that you're talking about, you get an opportunity to sprint on over to the A concourse and get you some Asian fusion, or the B concourse to get something else. It's important, man. You gotta enjoy the layover, I think.
Yeah, I haven't been to the Denver airport in a long time, actually. But anyway, what do you think? Should we talk about professional golf on this golf podcast?
Sure, screw it.
So yeah, the Players Championship. First and foremost, shout out to Cameron Young for a win at the Players Championship. This is a huge win for him in his career. This is a guy that was kind of riddled with early high hopes, I'd say, in his career. Him and Willie Z were kind of put in that next tier early in their career. And then after some close calls in majors, he went winless for a very long time. Now he rattles off a huge, huge win in a very, very fun fashion coming down the stretch. Cameron Young, him and Matt Fitzpatrick ended up having quite the showdown. Coming down the back nine, especially the last 3 or 4 holes. We can talk more about that. What are your, I don't know, like, what's your lasting impression? What's your first thought when you think of this championship?
It's great. This is a great tournament. It's a great tournament. It's fun to watch. This year there was a bit of wind kind of sprinkled throughout the entire week. And so you just kind of had an extra little dose of difficult. Little funny, Justin Thomas last week, the worst golfer of the weekend, comes in and was kind of in the mix there for a bit. And one of the things he said last weekend, he's like, I'm kind of glad I didn't have to go through the weekend because these greens were going to be brutal.
Yep.
And then, played the way he did this week and the greens were not courteous either. But as I think you and I were talking about it, he kind of likes this course. So shout out to him. But no, this is fun, man. This is when, for me, I think this is when the season really starts to feel like we're starting to get right. Like we kind of poke fun at Matt Hansen. We bring him up all the time, but he's like, if there's amateurs on the course, not a tournament. If they play multiple courses, not a tournament. If there's no cut, it's not a tournament. And I'll be honest, you paying attention to every tournament leading up to now, seeing like, okay, this is a limited field. There's amateurs. There's this, there's that. Like it feels good to get to a tournament where there's a really good mix of some of the best players on the planet. There's a cut. There's a full field. Like, it was nice. It felt nice to get into it and have a real full-fledged tournament.
Oh, absolutely. I think what happens with the PGA Tour season, and it sounds like Brian Rolap's kind of hoping to address this, but each of these guys have like a window that they want to highlight on their calendars and define form by. And I think early on in the season, some of these guys, by the time we get to early February, some of these guys maybe not be fully checked in, right? It's not in their window, right? So they're there to keep the reps going, but it's just not quite full season for them, and then as we start getting into some of these signature events, of course, we have the Genesis at Riv, that starts to slowly ramp up, the Arnold Palmer Invitational. But once we get to the Players, like, this is where all the guys are in full stride. So, and you can kind of tell by the way, they present it in the broadcast. Obviously it gets talked about as a 5th major. We can talk about that maybe another time. But this is kind of like one of those wins where you count majors. Majors are in their own category, but then you have like the other list of tournaments that are just a little bit meaningful on the Wikipedia page, and the Players is definitely one of them. So shout out to Cam Young. I do want to, before we kind of break it all down, I do want to talk about a couple moments that are kind of lingering for me on the tournament. One, of course, Ludwig he started 13 under going into Sunday morning in the final group, had a 3-stroke lead, I believe, 3 or 4-stroke lead. And he really looked like he was in pretty much control of the tournament. I mean, it was his tournament to lose. I believe it might have been hole 11 when he was going into the par 5, and he hits, quite frankly, by his standards, just a brutal, brutal shot. The wind gobbled it up, hits it in the water, and you're all of a sudden thinking, okay, so Fitzpatrick might come out of this tied for the lead. He makes bogey, and then he steps up to 12, which is the semi-drivable par 4. Well, definitely drivable par 4, and he pulls it right in the water, and you could kind of just see the wheels falling off a little bit. So that moment kind of eliminated him from contention, and then the camera shifted focus over to Cam Young and Fitzpatrick. But we talked about Ludwig already on this pod this year, and he's had kind of a shaky start to the season. He just kind of looks like he's not quite all there in terms of his game, and he was finding it. And so I think most everybody watching was kind of rooting for Ludwig for this thing. And it kind of sucked to see, his tournament hopes kind of just vanish before his eyes over, essentially 2 bad golf swings.
Yeah, I mean, for Ludwig, he hasn't had a terrible run, right? So going back to the Genesis Scottish Open in July of 25, our top 25s, T8, 23, 9, 7, 21, 20, 23, 3 in 25. And then 26, he has 3 more top 20s, including 2 top 5s.
Okay.
So he hasn't done terrible, but for whatever reason, I don't know. Maybe we have he's in that window of has high expectations. And once you fall into that little window, right, that expectations window, you either need to win or like we're going to talk about you, and maybe that's where he's at. And I think he's the recipient of that because he's a big, tall, athletic guy that has a really nice swing. And so I think as golfers, when we see that, we're like, oh, he must be one of the best, so he needs to win every week. And yeah, I thought he had it in the bag. I was texting Jared and I was like, I mean, I don't see a way where he loses this tournament. And shout out to Jared. His follow-up to me saying that to him was, I think, I don't see how Ludwig messes this up. He's just been steady Eddie all week. His response was, Cameron Young's going to get hot. He's going to go on a run. So shout out Jared, because what a call. I think Cameron was on like hole 6 when he said that. So my goodness.
That's unreal. I mean, and it took him shooting a 68 to win it. And the wind, as you were mentioning, the wind was picking up, towards the probably back half of Sunday. Just to kind of put a bow on it, Cam Young coming down the stretch, him and Matt Fitzpatrick, it was essentially a horse race between those two guys. And they get to hole 16, the par 5, and they both somehow ended up with like 45 footers for birdie. If I recall, they both walked away with a par on that hole, which left them getting ready to go up to, the famous 17th green. Fitzpatrick hits a ball where probably 90% of the field was hitting it, which was up on the shelf, but, short and a little left of the flag. Very popular place that day. Great golf shot, but it resulted in a 25 footer with about 10 feet of left to right break. And then Cam Young hits this thing like directly over the flag stick, and it kind of trundles down to what looked to be maybe 9 or 10 feet. Fitzpatrick 2 putts for par, and Cam Young makes the putt. It was awesome. I think that was the most animation I've ever seen out of Cam Young on a golf course. And he kind of like did like it wasn't even a fist pump, but it was just like maybe like a quick flex of his right arm a little bit just to like show the veins. And then he subdued himself.
Man, he only carried onto the green by like 6 inches on 17. I mean, it doesn't look like that far, maybe a foot, but yeah. And it just kind of runs up and falls down towards the hole.
Yep. And then, there's been a little bit of discussion going on about which shot was greater. Was it his 17th hole or was that the tee shot on 18? I was my sister was coming over to pick up her kids from my place as we're watching this. And, the shot tracer, he hits the shot and it's this high draw. And it looks like it's going to be really close to going in the water. Like it's on a good line. And then they pan out to the ball landing and it's in a spot that nobody else was hitting from. It was 375 yards, the longest tee shot on 18 in the shot tracer era, which goes back to 2003. And they asked him after the round, what were you thinking over that last tee shot? And I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was something along the lines of, well, I'm about to hit the best shot of my career. And then he does it.
And that's why he wins the tournament. To be honest, in my opinion, this is a really easy answer, the question you just asked. And it's the tee shot on 17. And the reason is it has all of the trouble. You put yourself in a bad spot on that hole, you're toast. And it's not that Fitzpatrick had an easy birdie putt, right? I mean, that would have been different, even more so. But he was safe on this hole, which is important, right? That's the first thing. Or is your ball safe? Fitzpatrick's safe. And now you still have to hit it with the tournament on the line. And not only does he hit it, he puts it inside 10 feet. So in my opinion, hitting an iron shot when there's everything but hitting the green is a drop shot. That's the more impressive shot in my opinion. And I think, to be honest, that shot on 18 happened because of him being able to put it close on 17 and make the birdie putt, right? I mean, that's the thing that tied him up. So the shot on 17 is by far, in my opinion, the better shot.
I think I agree with you, whether it's, I don't know, we have to compare difficulty of golf shots, but just like moments, everybody knows about hole 17, right? Like it's just famous for being the kind of faux island green. We've seen so many tournaments made or broken there. What year was it when Sergio Garcia just like totally like folded up on that hole? Maybe 2012 or 2013. So I think every golfer that shows up there is like, okay, I'm having the round of my life, but it's not over till I pass this hole. And yeah, I agree with you. That was just an unreal golf shot. And for him to make that putt, and it wasn't an easy putt either. I mean, it was a slider. It was much easier than Fitzpatrick's, but if he doesn't make that putt, it's a completely different tournament. For sure. So going down the leaderboard, and I'm gonna just rattle off. Maybe we'll go through the top 11. Some of the names on here were a little surprising, I guess, just considering I watched majority of the telecast on Sunday. But there was a lot of
particular
that. What's that?
I said there's one name in particular. I'll be honest, I'd never heard of him before until this tournament.
Well, it's actually funny because I've got some things to say about him. He's kind of blown up. But so, of course, Cameron Young with his win. Matt Fitzpatrick narrowly gets second place. Xander Schauffele makes his way into solo third place. Robert McIntyre, who I think I saw maybe 3 golf shots of his coming down the stretch. He got himself a solo fourth. I'm going to try to pronounce his first name. Sudarshan Yelamaraju. A 24-year-old Canadian PGA Tour rookie with a T5 finish, earned himself almost $1 million. He tied with Jacob Bridgman, who we've talked quite a bit about, and then seems like he's still in form. Ludwig moved down to T5, and then we had Fleetwood, Straka, JT at T8, and then just a couple more names, Patrick Rogers and Brian Harmon, T11. I guess I'll go down just a little bit further, okay? Because we have, I wanted to make sure we talk about Akshay coming off his win at the API last week, T13. Brooks Koepka, T13. He 3-putted for a double bogey on 18. So if he were to par that hole, he would have been in a T8 or T9 finish, I guess, for that matter. But it's good to see him up there in the mix. So I'm gonna assume that it's Yalamaraju that you had never heard of.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know who that was.
So I also had never heard of Yelamaraju. After looking into it a little bit after this tournament, so Yelamaraju is also 24 years old, and I say also because Akshay Bhatia is 24 years old. You and I offline had kind of chatted a little bit about the Akshay career path, right? The foregoing college route and turning pro early. Yella Miraju is essentially Akshay 2.0. Okay, so he turned pro 2021. I think Akshay turned pro in 2019, but they're the same age, and they both just bet on themselves in terms of making a career out of the PGA Tour. Uh, Yella Miraju, I believe he Monday qualified into, or no, he did Q school, got into the Corn Ferry Tour, ended up getting a win, and then qualifying top 20 during the last day of the Tour Championship for the Corn Ferry Tour, earning himself a PGA Tour card this year. I believe he made just under $500,000 in his Corn Ferry Tour career, and then to date, before this tournament, made about I believe it was $300,000. So in his career, he'd made less than $1 million, and then one really strong week at the Players Championship, he ends up cashing, I think, $936,000. So it's interesting to compare him and Akshay, because Akshay, turned pro and had enough success early on to kind of keep his name relevant, right? Like I think we all knew who Akshay was by the time he, kind of splashed onto the scene for the PGA Tour. But there are other guys doing the same thing, and I guess just didn't strike it rich the same way that Akshay did. Yet now, after a strong week, here he is. This is probably going to move him into all sorts of exemptions that otherwise he wouldn't have had on the PGA Tour.
That was the guy. And when I started looking into him, that's kind of what I pulled from that, was that he and Akshay were pretty similar. And he's just grinding it out. He's doing what he needs to do. And, weeks like this are weeks that I think, as a professional, it cements in you, like, I can do this. I can hang with these guys. I can make cuts and I can make a career of this, right? Because I think when you don't find success in this, I think the longer you go, it just becomes more and more difficult. Not because you're not talented enough, just because you're in your head. And so I think it's so cool seeing guys go, you know what, I'm just going to give this thing a run. I'm going to see what I can do. I'm going to Q school it. I'm going to Corn Ferry Tour it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to the, Latin American tour. I'm going to do what I need to. Right. And just give it my best years in my early 20s to try to make something. And so it's fun seeing these guys do it that way. Cause it's, it's not traditional, right? The traditional way is you go through college and you get a degree. And then if you're good enough after that, you go do it. But I don't know. I think this is fun, blazing your own path.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. If you asked Yella Miraju maybe at the start of 2026, going into his rookie year on the PGA Tour, if you asked him, let's say you're a father of a 17-year-old golf phenom, and you're like, hey, Yella Miraju, like, what do you think I should do for my son? Like, he's got a bunch of offers to play D1, or should he turn pro like you did? And I wonder what he would say to that. Like, would he look back on his career at that point and say, ooh, maybe college is the better route, obviously I think it'd be a different story now after the Players Championship, but that it's an interesting thought discussion, because I don't know what the right answer is, right? It seems like more now than ever the traditional college route is the way a lot of players are going. But we've got some pretty clear evidence that, that's not necessarily the only route.
I mean, let's take another name, and this is with just only recency memory involved. Let's take a guy, Austin Smotherman, who's been in the leaderboards recently, right? That guy went to college with Bryson. He had to go through the Corn Ferry Tour twice, right? He qualified to the PGA Tour twice, and then lost his card, and now he's back. And the last couple of weeks, he's been kind of in the mix, but we were joking in the group chat that Smotherman is either, both in his Corn Ferry Tour and his PGA experience, he's either a top 20 or miscut, top 20 or miscut, top 20 or miscut. And so for a guy like that, I think maybe the thought is, he's going to play to his competition regardless, whether it's the Corn Ferry Tour, whether it's college, or whether it's the PGA Tour. He's just going to be, that guy who's grinding regardless of who he's playing against. And he's going to find that equilibrium. And if you look at it that way, I think the argument, and I'm being biased because this is my opinion of how you should do things if you have the opportunity, is take the shot, go pro. Like what if you're gonna if you're gonna burn the money anyway to go after it, right? Because it's gonna cost you a lot of money. Do that first, because college will be there. Arizona State is not moving. It's gonna be there. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
If pro golf doesn't work out, and especially now with the NIL, right? Like, you try to go pro, doesn't work, you can go back. You can play college golf again.
Yep.
Or not. I mean, who cares? If you end up selling cars, you probably were going to sell cars anyway. I mean, like, try it out.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun to see, post tournament, he's getting a lot of run on social media. It's kind of cool to have his story be told like that. I do want to go through just kind of quickly before we move out of the players. Not a lot of shocking missed cuts. It seems like the guys that were destined to make the cut made the cut. There might be a few exceptions. Jake Knapp's been playing pretty good golf. He ended up missing the cut by a stroke.
I have a question about that. We need to talk about Jake Knapp. Let's run through it though.
Okay. Colin Morikawa played one hole on Thursday and then withdrew, citing a lower back injury. Kind of hate to see that. I don't know what's going on with all these back injuries on the PGA Tour. I like to think maybe it's not so bad. He's just trying to get informed before we approach major season. But skimming through here, Sammy Valimaki, Sammy Valimaki's #1 fan. I hated to see that he missed the cut by quite a large margin. Ben Griffin, I guess, I don't even know, but it seems like, compared to his last couple seasons, it's a quiet start to the season, but nothing I'm too worried about if I'm Ben Griffin, missed the cut by 2. But otherwise, most everybody that you'd expect made the cut, some closer than others. I'm talking to you, Scotty, and I'm talking to you, Rory. I think Scotty, he cleared the cut by 1. I think he finished either 1 over or even after Thursday and Friday. Rory made the cut on the number. It kind of had me wondering, what's this tournament going to look like as we have, other names start to move up the leaderboard? Is it still going to be fun? It was a wonderful, wonderful championship with or without Scotty and Rory in the mix. Well, all right, what do you got on Jake Knapp?
Well, before we get to the Jake Knapp, this is just kind of funny. So somebody else who missed the cut, Joel Damon. And Joel Damon has had a pretty good start. Let me pull it up real quick. He's had a pretty good start to the season compared to what, his year last year was looking like. So 2026, he has 2 top 10s, T38. In the last 2 weeks, though, missed cuts. So Joel Damon tweets out, from API and the players to Ubering to a Monday qualifier, #play better. And that's not where the pain stops. There's a handle that is Monday Q info. And all they talk about is Monday qualifiers. That's their gig. If you need to know anything Monday qualifier, you need to follow them. They respond. I have some great news. Last year there was 4 spots, and this year there's only 2. Hope this helps the ride in. Oh, Joel, gotta root for him. Love him. But Jake Knapp. So this not so much has to do with this weekend. Maybe it does. Depends on your opinion. I text you. There's some drama on in the social medias regarding Jake Knapp and what he reported his withdrawal last week, right?
Oh,
so
that's right.
He reported last week that he had a sickness, an illness, and he had to withdraw. Well, we've learned since then that it wasn't. It was actually a back injury. And I read that headline and I went, I need to get another opinion because I have a strong opinion. And when I have a strong opinion of something, I know Matt needs to go talk to his friends because maybe there's something he's missing. So I text you and I text who's becoming my I don't know, the guy that pulls me towards the middle, and that's AVL. And I text you individually. You and us 3 have a group chat. I did not put it in the group chat. because I didn't want to taint anybody's answers. So I text you and I text AVL at the same time with the same info. Hey, Jake Knapp, this and that. What do you think? You responded very much in line with how I felt. Who cares? Who cares? They're independent contractors. They're golfers. Who gives a crap? Who cares? Stubbed his toe. He's hungover, has food sickness. Who cares? AVL pointed out, hey, man, look, we got to keep it clean. We got to keep the storylines right. We have to be honest about with what's going on. And the people complaining about him reporting had everything to do with betting.
Sports
right?
betting.
So there's a lot of money in it, right? And so there's these guys that are out there that have, a roster of guys that they're regularly betting on. And turns out Jake Knapp coming into this, not this tournament, sorry, last week, I don't know if he was the favorite, but he was one of the top 3 guys. And I think he had the most stock in how many rosters he was on across all betting sites, and he pulled out. And when it comes to a single tournament pulling out, I guess it's even knowing that it has to do with betting. I don't understand why it matters. And what AVL pointed out to me was, well, it has to do with like long-term betting, right? Like if you had the flu on Wednesday, Thursday morning last week, that's likely not going to affect, his performance going into a tournament this week. But to his point, Jake Knapp misses the cut. Is it still the back injury? I don't know. Like, did that play a part? Was there a twinge in there that kept him from doing his, that buttery, soft, smooth swing that we're so used to? I don't know. What do you think?
When I say who cares, I just don't care. I mean, I don't know. Like, yeah, I totally understand the betting piece, right? Yeah, that makes sense. Sure. But I don't care. I don't know. I think of like, it's not even really in the same vein, but like in the NHL, I don't have a clue what their rules are about reporting injuries, but NHL is known for like really generic lower body injuries or upper body injuries. And like, it just is what it is. Usually it's the opposite. It's like so-and-so has a lower body injury. Then when the playoffs are over, you find out the lower body injury actually requires ankle surgery. And they were just playing through like a stress fracture all playoffs.
Well, how about this one? This is real. I just saw the injury report. Gabe Landeskog, captain Colorado Avalanche, has been out the last 4 games, and they're reporting it a upper body injury. Now, if you're paying attention to hockey, you know that he went out of the game after taking a shot to the groin from Cale Makar. Directly to the groin. And they're calling it an upper body injury.
Well, everybody knows when you get hit down there, you feel your entire guts go up into your throat. Yeah. That's probably why.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, but then I was thinking, like, man, to call that an upper body injury, like, shout out Gabe's wife, I guess.
Yeah. Matt.
Hey, I didn't say a bad word.
Who cares? All right, who cares?
No, I agree. And you know what's funny is I was having this back and forth with AVL about it. And I like getting into the nitty gritties, like of, if there's a good reason for something, I'm all for it, right? If there's a good reason for it, let's do it. That's the right thing to do. But in this case, I asked the question, like, what does the PGA or the DP World Tour or whoever, whatever professional tour, owe BetKings, DraftKings, whatever it is, whatever website that's gambling? What do they owe them? And it's like, well, they owe them a fair playing field. Well, I challenge that. I'm going to keep asking the question. Why? Why do they owe them that? The guy's not playing. Either you're going to bet on him or you're not. And here's why I press that is it goes as far as like, okay, so if we owe it to him, where do we have to draw the line somewhere as to what's reportable and what's not reportable? That's my opinion. Right. So if I'm going to withdraw, you have to tell me the injury, and I have to tell you the injury and what exactly it is because of future betting. Well, okay, if that's true, then can't you make the argument that I have to report injuries even if I am playing? Because in some leagues, that's true. The NFL, even if you're playing, you have to report injuries. Hey, I've been having a knee strain, but I'm still playing, but they have to report it. So it's like, how far down the line do we have to go before we start reporting stuff? And when it starts going down, you're like, oh man, like this feels like a rabbit hole. That's when I get to the who cares? Don't bring it up. It doesn't matter. You're gambling. That's the whole thing. You're gambling. You don't know if Jake Knapp or whoever, Colt Knost, name the guy, had a bender last night. Maybe it was his girl's birthday and him and the boys threw it on Friday night. You know, he's top 10. He's like, I can't lose tomorrow. And they stayed up till 2 a.m. because he tees off at noon. Like, you don't know. Who cares?
I'm with you. I mean, if they change the rule tomorrow and said you got to report every little hangnail, I wouldn't care about that either, Matt. I genuinely think they could approach this however they want, and I just don't care. I don't care. Now let's go back to just injuries in general, because is there something there? And I'm going to sound like a total boomer here, okay? But like the early talks of trying to get more distance, right? And some of the hardos out there were saying, well, I don't know, you shouldn't chase the distance. That's going to lead to injuries. And I'm like, well, come on. Like, they're just swinging a golf club here. And I'm not going to say I fully subscribe yet, but like, is there something there to all these little back injuries that we're seeing, back and neck and wrist injuries? Are these guys taking it a little too far? And I don't think swinging the club too hard is the part that's taking it too far. I'm imagining it's these guys constantly grinding at the range, constantly tinkering, hitting thousands of golf balls. Are we chasing something that's maybe a little too much for these guys?
Yeah, I absolutely think that's true. I absolutely think that's true. And I think it's true in all sports. I've been talking about this for years that you know, you look back at like the 60s and the 70s, you know, before guys really started leaning into the fitness and trying to be as big and fast and strong as possible, that the types of injuries that we see today were far less common. And the argument is simple, right? Like I can go to the gym and I can start doing curls and I can do squats and explosive workouts and make my muscles stronger. There are no workouts that strengthen the tendons that are holding everything together. Right? Like that's just a fact. And so if to me, I think it would be utterly ridiculous for anybody to make an argument that that's not true. Like the function of being faster, stronger, better means there's going to be a weak point, and the weak point is your tendons. And that's what we're seeing, right? We see the connective stuff giving out, right? In football and basketball players, it's their knees.
Yeah.
It's their ankles. And in golf, what's the thing that's moving the most? Their back.
It's their back.
Every time. For Tiger, it's his back and it's his knees. I mean, he almost lost his leg in a car crash, but it's his back. You know?
Yeah, and I mean, just to add it to the list, Rory McIlroy has been dealing with a bit of a back shoulder thing lately too. So it's interesting. I'm not like quite there on sounding the alarm bells, but there's just got to be a balance somewhere that these guys can find. But yeah, it's interesting. Well, hey, we're creeping up on an hour. It is a school night. I do want to talk briefly about the Live Golf Championship. I should quickly Google where they played. This is not me poking fun at Live Golf. I just didn't watch. Live Golf Singapore. So the only bit of that I watched was Richard T. Lee, another Canadian golfer I've never heard of. He was in a playoff with Bryson, and he missed a putt that was what appeared to be about a foot and a half. And then that was for Bryson to lock in the win. It might have been one of the most real social reactions that I've seen out of Bryson, because it was truly a very uncomfortable situation for him. He genuinely looked sad at first, and he's like, kind of like, shoot, this is a weird thing I didn't expect. He had his arms over his head, kind of like, oh, this is not how I wanted to win it. He goes and shakes his hand, and but he first finally smiled when his caddy comes over to hug him, and he's like, yeah, I guess I won this thing. So Bryson knocks off yet another win.
Yeah, it is. When I think of stuff, when I see stuff like this, as brutal as it is to lose it on the last hole, I think golf, more than a lot of sports, it's the culmination of all of the holes, right? And so if you were to go back to his entire round, for the entire week, I would bet money that there was a shot that he made that he probably shouldn't have, that you could argue put him in the position that he was in here, right? And so it's tough to see in the last hole, but I mean, Bryson should be just as pumped winning the tournament that way as if he made a birdie putt to win it, right? He did all the things he needed to. It is tough to watch a guy in that moment do it, but I mean, you won the tournament, man.
I agree with you, right? It's a 72 hole tournament, in this case 73, but I just I have the clip, and we're about to watch, and I'll go back a little bit so we can watch the putt, but you're about to see the face of a man who won the tournament that he spent, all week chipping away at, made his way to a playoff, and he's about to win a $4 million golf tournament. And this is his reaction. And this is not Bryson for show, I don't think. So there's the missed putt. It's over, and it pans over to Bryson.
He doesn't know what to do.
He just looks gutted for him. And I guess as a pretty staunch Bryson hater throughout most of his career, I just got to say, I guess props to him for, I mean, that's just genuine emotion right there. He probably would have taken, maybe not that forceful of a lip out, and he probably would have, at least cracked a smile, but that thing lipped out to about 4 feet.
If you've played golf with any regularity in your life, you know what Richard was thinking there. Put the break out of this thing, just put it in the back of the hole, pound it in.
Yeah.
Just pound it in. And missed.
So shout out to Bryson. I mean, I didn't watch any of the tournament, but there's some heavy hitters on that tour, and he knocks off yet another win. And you could argue it's perfect timing, as we're 2.5 weeks away from the first major of the season being the Masters. So Matt, I'm gonna call it for the night. We're at the hour mark. Gosh, it feels good to be back on the saddle. Coming up, like I said, we've got the Masters coming around. You can anticipate some preview pods for that, maybe 1 or 2. I know Jared would like to come on. He's kind of our Augusta National expert on hand. So we'll be doing a deep dive into the course leading into the tournament. We'll do a preview pod, and then of course we'll be doing a recap, which brings us back to 1 full year of recording this podcast, because our first ever podcast was right after the Masters. So with that, we'll go ahead and tune out, and we will talk next week.
All right, guys. See ya.